Hey, this is Mr. Campbell here, showing you guys some cool stuff in Flolab and some basic stuff that we have in here. We have set this up. Our goal or our intention with this, our objective, is to make the player shoot and have the enemy perish as a result, to lose his little life, his little digital life. So let's just take a look at what I've built in here so far. You want to build something similar, simple. Our only goal is to make this thing work so the shooting removes the player, the enemy. So here's a wall thing I made, and it's called wall. It's got a sprite that's based on one of the things provided in blocks. It has no behaviors at all, and it's physics. It's solid but not movable. So that's the wall. Similarly, we have a floor piece. So I called this floor. I made one frame. It's not animated. There's no behaviors, and it's solid but not movable. Now, additionally, I've got the player. Now, the player has all the same stuff as that, but I need to change the physics so that it is movable. And back to properties, we're going to edit the sprite. And I'm not going to animate the enemy, but I'm going to show you how to do it here. So you should be able to figure it out for the enemy. So I'm going to browse. Now I'm going to open up the film strip thingamajig. I'm going to make a new animation called Run or Run. I don't know which you pick. So Run. And there it is. And we're going to add some frames. So I'm going to browse for my additional frames, add a frame, and pick pixel characters. And I'm going to get frame 2 of that player and add another frame. Notice 1, 2, 3 is only 3 of this one. And some other ones, some of the other designs have 4 frames. So now this will run. I can look over here and see how it goes. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of slow. Let's speed that up. So I'll reduce the delay. And that's just how many frames each picture sticks around for. So now it's got a nice movement to it. So that works. I'm happy. Now the behaviors, it's not going to work until I add behaviors. So for example, if I run this from here, keys don't work. Now there's a simple, quick, and easy way to add behaviors to this. There's a behavior bundle called Run and Jump. It's available from Flolab. It's free. It's easy. It works nice. And it contains some basic stuff. Left and right, move the player left and right by 6, either -6 or +6, depending if you're going left or right. It flips when you choose one of these buttons, so it's just going to go flip back and forth when you're using the left or right key to make it face the right direction, the correct direction that is. And the velocity is what receives this movement, so that's what makes it move. There's a collision. Now the collision piece is kind of important. It's hard to understand for me initially, but essentially it says if it's hitting anything, then it turns on the ability to be jumpable, and the jump is done by pressing the keyboard, the up key on the keyboard, and it sends a velocity value of 12. This is actually just a number variable that comes from the logic and math number section right there. So it sends that value into the switch and out to the impulse when you press this button. So this part just makes it possible. This part makes it happen. Now what's missing in here, if we actually run this, let's just watch what happens. Our player goes back and forth, but they don't animate. Now you may recall that we just added animation of this like seconds ago. Well, maybe a minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an additional property called animation. So this object has an animation property. The default is run because that's the only animation available. And we're going to use loop. Let's try it without looping actually. So let's down. So if we're holding down the left key down or the right key down, that might make that player animate. Let's make sure our spaghetti's connected. There we go. So if we run this, if I'm holding down the key, yep, if you just hold down the key and don't have to loop it. So now it goes back and forth and runs all the time. That's perfect. That's easy. Now the next thing we're going to do is do the movement for the enemy. And we're going to come back and do the shooting. So here's the enemy piece. We're going to do the behaviors. And this one's going to be pretty basic. We're going to do an always on this. And you could add an animation there. If you did the animation, you'd attach that to this piece. You can actually spaghetti string these out to lots of things and branch them out to different things. We're just going to say properties, velocity. We do need to tell how fast to go. So the how fast comes from a logic and math piece called number. And so anytime you need to feed a value of a number there, that's what you use. And if we use out to the in and we change the value of this to like 5 or something and go out to the forward, all right, that's going to work. So we can run this now, and he runs. Now notice he went right through that wall, which is kind of weird. So you have to go back to the physics for the piece and make it movable. Okay? So if you make it movable, now he'll hit things. So edit the piece, open the behaviors, run it. Now he hits the wall. So if it's not stopping when it hits walls, make sure he's movable. And I'm not sure if we did it to our player or not. But now we're going to also add something that says turn around if you hit the wall. So find a collision. And the collision currently says any, but we want it to say wall. And real simple here, when it hits the wall, we're going to add a flip to it. So flip is just a thing that says, oh, flip it around like a hamburger or a pancake. So hit and toggle. No, toggle. Come on, connect. There we go. The spaghetti will not connect. There we go. We got it. So now we run it, and it goes back and forth. Now, of course, it's not animated. You could do that with an animation that says always to attach so it's always moving and running. Not our main objective. We've already shown you how to do that with other pieces. So now we're going to work on the shooting. Now, before we can have shooting, we got to have a bullet or a shot. So if I create this thing, we got to decide what color to make it. So what color your bullet should be is based on what color your background is. So I have a blue background. So white is kind of a bullet-like color because it's moving. I'm going to go with, you can always come back and change it real easy, right? So I'm going to get the pencil tool, and I'm just going to go pew pew like that. And so now I can see it. It's a little bit big, so I'll go back and edit it. Edit the sprite. Erase a few pieces of it. I don't know. That's supposed to be our bullet. We can see it though. That's good news. Now to make this shooting happen, we have to open up the player bundle again, open the behaviors, and say, okay, we are going to add something to this. It says when they press the space bar, make the bullet flash. So here's keyboard, the keyboard trigger, and we can set this to the space bar. There we go. So now it knows it's the space bar. And this is going to cause a component called emit to happen. So if it emits, what does it emit? Well, it's going to emit the shot. So click here. We're going to choose the new type 8, which actually is called shot. I should probably go back and change that to shot. So here's the thing. Edit. Always name your pieces. Now when I've done that, because I changed the name, it may make a problem when I have this behavior happening. So name them first, right? So this is new type 8. Now we have no new type 8, we have shot. So let's go reset that and say, okay. So the emitting of it, let's try it and see what happens. Run it, okay? And if I go this way, it emits out the front. So let me make sure I did that right. Yep, so that works fine. Now we're also going to take the shot itself and program it to move. So we open this up. It has no behaviors currently, but we're going to say the same thing we did to our player and our other object. We're going to add a number, and we're going to add that to a velocity thing, which is a property. Here's velocity. So let's set the number to like 15 or 12 or something. Faster than the player and the enemy. 12 will probably be kind of slow. So you can always change that up if you want to. And forward. Now if I choose that, here's the problem with that little issue. There's the bullet, but if I go this way, what? Right? That's kind of weird. So the reason that that's happening is because when it emits, let's see, where am I here? Am I inside the bullet right now? I forget. I'm inside the bullet. So we got to go back to here, to the player, and open the behaviors. And the emitting, we need to rotate the object. So depending on which way it's coming out of, we want to rotate the piece. So now, shoot this way, works both directions. Okay? So we have a velocity on the piece. What we do not have is what happens when it hits something. So going back to the bullet, we're going to add a behavior. So currently it says always move at 12 pixels per frame. We're going to add to this a collision. And the collision with anything is going to make it disappear. So a component for this is destroyer. Okay, so that means if it hits the wall, if it hits the enemy, hits anything, it's going to disappear. So it hits the wall. Oh, why does it not hit the wall? I'll tell you why. Because I probably did not make it movable. Got to be movable. Okay, so if it's movable, it can hit other things. Even though it's solid, let's try it. Run it. And now it's hitting the wall, and it's disappearing. So what still has to happen is we have to have a control for the enemy. When it hits by the bullet, it disappears. This one's pretty easy. We're going to use a collision piece. And we're going to add, when it gets collided with, we're going to choose components, and you're going to use a destroyer. And you would also normally attach this to something that would feed it out to be feeding the score normally. So if I connect these two, now when the player shoots the enemy, where'd the enemy go? I think I must have shot it accidentally. Sorry about that. Let's run it. Huh. My enemy disappears. Let's go back and check the enemy. Is this the enemy? Oh, I have this hit the enemy. So the enemy, when it hits anything, which includes the floor. So we need this to be hit by the shot. That's why the enemy is disappearing, because he's hitting anything. Alright, so hits the wall, nothing happens. And there we go. The only problem so far right now is that the bullet sort of falls, and I think it must have gravity applied to it. So let's go to the bullet, or the shot, and edit it, and go to physics and say no gravity. So now when you run it, the bullet will fly and not fall to the ground. Boink. And the player dies. That's the process. And think of how you can apply this into the games that you're making. It may or may not fit, but it's a good thing to know how to do this, because it's a common part of lots of games. All right, see you guys soon. Rock on.